I'm Steve Harmison. I represented England in 63 tests and 58 one-day internationals and won the Ashes twice with my country.
And I'm McKenzie. I've experienced life as both a professional boxer and a Premier League footballer. In this programme, we interview former elite athletes about their transition from their sporting careers to civilian life and the struggles which have followed.
Both Leon and I have had our battles dealing with day-to-day life since departing the sporting arena. And during this series, we'll be speaking with several personalities who've experienced their own issues following their time in elite sport.
Especially at home in Belfast, like the connection between me and Barry, I think that's why I had so much, the fan base and the people come out and supported me, because they've seen what he'd done 30 years previous or 25, whatever it was.
Tonight on talkSPORT, we're in conversation with a two-weight world boxing champion.
There's this term that's been floated around about recently, and it's called, intergenerational trauma, I think. Trauma being passed on to younger men. Obviously there was a lot of atrocities in the 70s and 80s, 90s in Northern Ireland.
The great Carl the Jackal Frampton. Well, let's give a big welcome to tonight's guest on After the Lights Go Out here on talkSPORT. It's a very good evening to Carl Frampton. Carl, how are you?
I'm doing good, boys. Not
How
bad.
you doing, Carl?
I'm alright, yes. A stressful one this morning. Nearly didn't get on a flight, but I got here in the end.
You're here now, which is great. Carl, your retirement came very publicly, inside the ring, live on TV, after your WBO fight against Jamal Herring in Dubai in 2021. What was a period like when you brought the curtain down on what was a fantastic career?
It was sad, but it felt like a relief as well, if I'm being honest. I was looking out probably the last few years of my career. And going into that fight, I wanted to win it, and it was a chance for me to become a 3-weight world champion. But going into the fight, I knew win, lose or draw, I'm retiring. Well, probably not a draw. If you draw, I'd have to have another fight, wouldn't it? But win or lose, I'm retiring. What a way to retire as a 3-weight world champion. It would have been a great way to go out, and no money in the world could have got me to continue on with my career, but I didn't even have the choice because I got emptied. I got pretty convincingly beaten, and I just realised that I wasn't the fighter that I used to be.
Carl, you announced that in the ring, right?
Yeah.
If I remember rightly, I remember you doing the announcement. Was that planned? Was that just a spontaneous decision to do that in the ring?
Well, it was... I think it was probably planned, because like I said, genuinely going in to the fight, I wanted to win it and then announce my retirement. But it was very emotional. I was in Dubai. I normally box in front of big crowds. There was 200 people there because in the middle of COVID. My family weren't there. My wife and kids weren't around. My old coach, who I owed so much to, my old amateur coach, had died a few months previous to that, and I was very, very emotional. But I was relieved as well. But it wasn't planned. Oh, sorry, it was planned. I knew I was going to do that.
So what was in place for Carl Frampton after that?
Well, initially, nothing. Genuinely, I was kind of hopeful that I would maybe get a job like the job that I'm doing now, working for TNT. I was doing bits and pieces while I was still boxing, a little bit of kind of punditry and stuff, and I enjoyed it, and the feedback was always good. So I was hoping that maybe that was a role I would be able to take up, and luckily enough, I was offered a contract by TNT shortly after my retirement. I think it was only a number of months afterwards. So not really much of a plan apart from taking it easy and just hoping to figure it out and find a way. And I was quite lucky in effect.
So when we generally retire, I mean, for myself, retire from professional football first off, didn't have a plan. It was quite oh no, what am I going to do sort of thing. I feel like you was prepared to finish. So as a fighter, you kind of knew it was time to say, do you know what, I can't do no more. Is that how you feel, like in terms of like your emotions? What was they sort of telling you? Because we can be quite emotional when we lose a fight, obviously at your level. But to then go on to say, actually, no, I'm going to just keep retired.
Yeah, I mean, I missed my family all the time, you know what I mean? I'd only 2 kids at the time, of 3 now. But I had 2 kids, and I just felt like I was missing a lot of their growing up. And although I was boxing, and a lot of it was for them and for a better life and a bit of security after boxing, it was hard to do. And even, I mean, it sounds very, very trivial, but even things like missing the kids' sports day, missing the babies taking their first steps, stuff like that. I know there's guys doing 9 to 5s that miss these sort of things as well, but I just wanted to be at home a bit more.
It's the training camps though, isn't it? You know, like you have those extreme training camps, and obviously world level, I had a little taste, like English level, but you know, you're on a different level.
How many fights did you have, Leon?
11 pro fights, yeah. Got to English title level. So there's an understanding in the camps, and
there's a dedication though, isn't there?
It's dedication.
You said there about, you know, missing sacrifice and missing things. In sport, there are things you have to go through, but the dedication for me, watching you guys in boxing and camps that you go in, I mean, just explain what that's like when it comes from an emotion point of view, and the sacrifices you have to put to one side and go, for the next 12 weeks, I have got nothing in my life other than to try and beat him.
It was difficult, but I think it's something that you get used to. And I mean, I have to credit myself that I know fighters that go into camps, and I done long camps. They were 12 weeks. Some fighters do 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever. But I like to do 12 because that's what I always done and was used to. So it was pretty much 12 weeks away from my family. I never cheated. You know, I lived like a monk genuinely, and I knew I had to give myself the best chance of trying to win these fights. I don't think I'm naturally the most gifted fighter on the planet. I genuinely don't. I obviously had a bit of talent, but
a bit.
Well, I had more than a bit.
2-time world champion.
Yeah, but I credit most of that to the work that I put in. Like I grafted, really grafted.
Yeah, he's real fit.
It was always hard to make a weight, but I always got down, and I lived the life of a professional athlete for them sort of 12 weeks. Now, I wish in between fights I'd have done the same, but when you're a young man, you know, you go on the drink and you do every different thing.
It's difficult. Even I was 35 when I stepped into professional boxing ring after 18 years in football, so I was like at the back end in boxing already, but I understand what it does to you physically. And my dad obviously was an old school fighter, so
who doesn't get enough credit, by the way.
Clinton.
Yeah, great fighter.
Oh no, thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, listen, you know, he was an old school fighter, but he used to put me through it. Like when I mean, this is what
that
it's all
helped you in your football career as well.
Yeah, I've always ticked over. I've always like, you know, sparred and secretly done boxing on the side, and pre-season would come and I'd do more boxing training really than football. So I'm really a boxer turned footballer, but that was a secret within football until I stepped into the ring anyway. But yeah, the training aspect of it, you know, to get to like world level, and obviously Duke, you know, obviously did get that three-time world champion. I mean, but he's always spoke very highly of you, Carl. Like when we've watched your fights, especially like the world titles and the build up, and you're like, you know what, you extremely fit, dedicated. You can see you was dedicated. So like you're fully respected in my family, that's for sure.
Did you have any regrets during that sort of time about missing family or missing anything else? Was it just solely focused on?
No, I mean I did have regrets, but I knew why I was doing it. I do have some regrets. I think there was things that I'd done, like there was members of my wife's family who passed away while I was in the middle of camp. Now these were kind of at the start of camp, and I was training in London at the time. And I was persuaded not to go home because, you know, I need to be in camp but can't go home. You pick up bugs on the flights and stuff. And I was just thinking, like, you know, one day off to go back. I'll be back in that evening, back into camp. I need to be there for my wife who's lost 2 close family members. And I allowed other people to persuade me not to do that. And I felt like, I mean, I was a man at that stage. I was a grown up. I had children and stuff, but I felt like I didn't stand up for myself enough. I just done what I was told, and I mean a lot of that helped me. And you know, there was people guiding me and helping me and picking fights for me. But there was just times where I feel like I should have been a bit more vocal and had my own say
in your own career. I mean, well, there's one subject. I think the question to both of you, because you're both gone through the boxing side of it, but dementia. You know, being hit. You know, a lot of footballers talk about the old style balls. But do you see Do you worry about that further into life, especially with the kids and everything that comes? Does the word dementia give you any sort of fear?
It doesn't give me fear, and I'll be as honest as I can be here. I feel like I'll get it at some point because of what I've done. It's not good for your body and your head, especially to take that amount of trauma. And I was boxing since I was 7 years old. So a long time. I had big camps. I probably sparred too much as well. That's something that I would advise young fighters not to do. And I sparred with guys that were too big for me as well. And in that moment, you feel macho. I can deal with these big welterweights and stuff. But really, when you come out of it and you start to think it was a bit silly. I mean, I hope that if dementia comes, I hope it doesn't. If it comes, I hope I'm 75 and not 50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't worry about it because it's part and parcel of this game, as horrible as that sounds. And because of what I done as a fighter, I have been able to provide for my family and my wife and kids, and we do have a comfortable life. And I was going to say I wouldn't change it. It would maybe change the amount of sparring that I done, definitely. But apart from that, I wouldn't.
Carl, during the height of boxing, through your boxing career, we had a very close relationship with the McGuigan family, as we know. And what's interesting for me is I know Barry, I know Shane, and I know the dynamics that you had. You got very close, like a family, like a family unity, right? It's you put your trust into both of them. And unfortunately, it went sour. It went absolutely left. I've met Barry a few times, and obviously he's always been respectful towards me. Seems quite in a gentleman way. Met Shane a little bit more reserved. Not so much to say as such. But I've met them both and never had any issues. And I see like Chris Billam-Smith and certain other fighters who are very close with him. And Barry.
I listened to Chris Billam-Smith when he talks about the McGuigans, and it sounds exactly how I spoke about them when I was with them. Like, I love these guys. I trusted them with everything, and there was people constantly around me who knew them and maybe didn't know them that well either, always kind of saying just be careful. But I thought these are people with an agenda, or maybe jealous people, and I it just felt like a family. Like Barry often called me the fourth son. He's three other sons, and I was number 4. And it was horrible, everything that happened, and obviously a lot of it was to do with money and me not getting money and not getting what I should have been getting, and waiting on for months, up to a year almost, on purses, and I'm talking about big purses as well. And it's there's things about Barry and Shane, and Barry's very good at matchmaking. He's a very good matchmaker and guiding a fighter to get to a certain point. Shane is a very, very good coach as well, and I'll openly admit that. But there was so much that went on, and a lot of it's all documented in my book. Often a critique that gets fired back to me is, well, this is one side of the story. This is Frampton's side of the story. And my answer to that is, well, why has Barry not told his side? And I think I know the answer. So he hasn't really come out and told his side of the story. And everything, I mean, I go into a lot of detail in the book, and I've yet to receive a legal letter of someone trying to sue me for saying anything incorrect. So although I did have a real friendship, fondness of these guys, and respect as well, all that's completely gone.
How does that make you feel though? You see other fighters who are coming through now, even Chris Billam-Smith is an example, and you see how you was once speaking about the McGuigans, and then you're like, do you think like why would you do that to me, sort of thing?
Well,
Like with respect.
Yeah, I get it. I need to be careful now what I say here, because I would wonder, am I the only one that it's happened to? You know, that's what I would wonder, and I would hope that it doesn't happen to anybody else. But that's something that I think about. And like I said, Chris Billum Smith, you know, a lovely big fella and a good fighter. I suppose a bit like myself in terms of the talent, probably not gifted with talent, but really grafted hard. And he can call himself a world champion for the rest of the day.
Because you was managed by them, so you let them take over everything.
Done everything, and
it was a long time as well, wasn't it? You know, I've got it here. It's like you came together in 2009.
Yeah.
You won first world title in 14, then in 16, and obviously the partnership ended in 2017. That's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
And so over that course of that time, was there any signs? Did you feel anything was off? And when did you go, actually, hold on, something's not quite right?
Well, really, it was around the Scott Quigg fight.
Yeah.
And there was one instance, and it was my wife who brought it up to me. So there was we were staying in the Midland Hotel in Manchester, and my wife went to get some food for lunch, and one of the McGuigan family members says, "No, don't be paying for that. Put that on the account." She went, "Oh, okay." But then when she thought about it, she see more and more people who she didn't really know putting this on the account, putting this and that on the account, and it's small things really, but you start to think, what's going on this account? And this account was all coming out of my purse, by the way, as an expense for fighting.
Right, yeah.
So that was when I started to think, what's going on here, a little bit. And then when I'm waiting 11 months on purses, like I went into the first Santa Cruz fight and I hadn't been paid for the Quigg fight yet.
Cool.
And I went into the second Santa Cruz fight, and I'd only been paid for Quigg and Santa Cruz just previous to that as well. So I'm waiting the guts of a year for the Quigg payday.
So what is the normal procedure for like a promoter or a manager, just so people that are a little bit more educated around it? So you have your fight.
Yeah.
I remember you saying something about Quigg as well, and he said to you like he's earning more than you or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Even though the split was more in my favour.
Even though the split was more in your favour, but you picked up on that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the procedure of it all, right? You win the world title, give or take a month.
I think the official rules are a month. The money needs to be in your account within a month. Now it's different for pay-per-view, which Quigg was, because it takes a little bit longer for that to come in.
So what you're on the phone, and you're like, a month goes past, another month goes past. Surely that becomes a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I used to get embarrassed about asking for it. I mean, it's my own money and I'm waiting on it, and I used to be embarrassed about. I felt like, I don't know. It was always difficult to speak to Barry about money. So to the point where I used to speak to his other son Jake, who was involved in managing me as well, and the old message that I would get from them and Blaine McGuigan as well, the other son who was involved, was, we're trying to give you this money the most tax efficient way possible. Now at the time I was like, right, okay, because I still had a fair bit of trust in them.
Put your trust in them.
But really, when you think about it, what does that mean? I mean, they don't do my the accountant sorts of taxes. They give me the money and I can sort the tax out myself.
Barry was somebody who was very similar to yourself in such a way where, if you look at Shane was a trainer, and the rest were, the family members were probably more the sort of clerical side of it. You Protestant married to a Catholic.
He was
Barry was the other way. Barry was the other way around. So there's a lot of similarities between you and Barry McGuigan. I mean, when you, in 2018, when it all settled down, I mean, what was your feelings then about somebody who had done that to you, who had gone through a similar path to what you had?
I've changed now, and I mean, I'll never have a relationship with these guys, but in 2018, a year after it, the court case hadn't even kicked off yet, but I just had this real bitterness about them and hatred, hated these guys. Just felt like my trust was completely abused, and I'd give them everything, and I'd done everything I was told and asked for, and I missed them family funerals that I was talking about and things like that. I had this real resentment for them, and it's dwindled now. I mean, we're never going to have a relationship, but within the boxing game, I get enough satisfaction in knowing that there's a lot of people in this game don't really like him and they know what they're like, so that'll do for me.
It's hard when you put your trust into, you know what happens is that you're a bit naive, to be honest.
Very naive I was, yeah.
And I've been that in my life many times, where you've put so much trust into, right, can you sort out this tax bit, can you sort out my money here, and all of a sudden you're not in control of nothing.
No.
And that's the problem I think a lot of sportsmen fall into. And even when you get a knock at the door and your career's finished, which I've had, and you've got a knock at the door from HMRC saying XYZ, and I'm like,
where'd I get that from?
Well, that was talking about HMRC and knocking the door. There was I was a director of Cyclone Promotions at the time, but because we made it was a big bit of a big deal and a move at the time, where I was with Matchroom and Barry was managing me, and then we set up the Cyclone Promotion, so I was meant to be, it was a bit of a risk, so that was the line given to me to get me to jump over with them. And to be honest, I didn't really need that. I would have just went, whatever you say, Barry, I'm happy to do this. But the HMRC, when I was getting ready for my last fight with the McGuigans, the HMRC came to my house where I was living. I wasn't at home, I was in training camp. My wife answered the door with our young son on her hip, and there was a guy looking 397 grand of unpaid VAT off me. And at that stage, that was when I just made the decision, right, I'm going to have this fight, and then these guys, we're done. We're done forever. So
that was the actual calling of
that.
Your
it was
decision.
going that way anyway. But that moment, that was it. That just, I hit the roof. And
because your wife answering the door.
It was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, I understand that. And it can't be easy.
You ended up in court. Was that inevitable?
Yeah, it was.
No
it was a
choice.
shame, but it was inevitable. It had to be like that.
So you went through the court process. I thought it was settled outside.
Yeah,
it was
did. But you had to go
We
first.
had to go
But
through.
you had to go through the procedures.
But it was. I mean, it was a long. The court process was about 21 or 22 days actually. So, it actually went. It went on for quite a bit, and that's one of the reasons why I can say so much in my book, because everything that happened in court, it's public knowledge, and you can repeat it and say it. If there had been a settlement, they had approached for a settlement maybe at the start of the court case, then the book may not have been had as much information in it as it does. But it was, no one can say that when it's a settlement you're not allowed to, you can't say you won. But what I can say, and what I don't think I've heard them say, is I'm very happy with the settlement.
Did you ever feel like when you was going through this process, especially after retiring, did you ever feel mentally drained, damaged?
Because you were still fighting as well.
Yeah. But obviously when you actually really finish and there's no more boxing, and you're still kind of going through the process of like, actually I've been unfair done here. Do you know what I mean? Mentally that can be quite draining.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period where I was obviously having to pay legal fees and stuff, and I'm kind of going, there's stupid numbers here, but I was so determined that I haven't done anything. I'm not in the wrong here. That was my view on it. I need to keep pushing through and proceeding with this, but I've got a young family at home and a wife as well who's having to deal with this too, and mentally it was difficult. Probably the most difficult moment ever in my life was being cross-examined by their barrister, who, I mean, I felt like he would ask me a question. He was I don't think I can't say I think he's a good barrister, but I feel like I handled him really well, if I'm being honest. And what felt like was happening to me was he would ask me a question, I would answer it the way that he didn't want it to be answered, and then he would call me a liar. And that's how it went for like 5 days. It was a horrible experience, but I felt like I'd done okay. Did
you regret not ending the partnership sooner?
Yeah, I do. And I think in hindsight, when there's a lot of digging and stuff going on, and forensic accountants get involved, and then you find out things were happening previous to Quig, and so on and so forth, I wish that probably should have happened. But then at the same time, I think that Shane as a coach was able to develop me and make me a better fighter, Barry, I mean, brilliant matchmaker in terms of picking fights and the right fights the right time. He knows boxing inside out. So in a sense, I don't regret it, because I do think with another coach I could have won world titles and maybe done what I have done anyway. But I think that, especially at home in Belfast, like the connection between me and Barry, I think that's why I had so much the fan base and the people come out and supported me, because they've seen what he'd done 30 years previous or 25, whatever it was previous, and he had a huge fan base, and just the relationship, two guys, similar circumstances, similar weights, and I think that's one of the reasons why I had the fan base that it did. So there is some things that I'm thankful for.
Carl, in recent times, you've been public about your interest in mental health, especially in Northern Ireland. You tell us a little bit more about that?
I think there's a bit of a crisis at the minute, probably globally, but certainly in the UK and Ireland, and especially where I'm from in Belfast. I think that North Belfast, where I'm from, has one of the, if not the highest suicide rate.
3 suicides per week.
Insane in numbers in such a small place. Even Northern Ireland as a country is a small place, but Belfast is really a small city, and it's horrible. I've been effectively directed by issues with it, and I know other people who have been directly affected. I know friends of mine, family members of my wife who've taken their own lives and stuff, and
really,
yeah,
really sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. And again, that was talking about the funerals that I missed. One of them was that. And
Carl, why do you think? Obviously, I'm familiar with suicide. Obviously, attempted many years ago myself. And it's all about the fight back. It's all about the response. But when I look at actual Ireland and Belfast, being the place that the suicide rates is absolutely mind-blowing. Why do you think it's so bad in terms of men, actually? Because it's actually a lot higher than it is for women. Why is it so bad in Belfast?
I don't really know. There's this term that's been floated around about recently, and it's called intergenerational trauma, I think. So trauma being passed on to younger men who have their family members have experienced, and obviously there was a lot of atrocities in the 70s and 80s, 90s in Northern Ireland, and the trauma that these young men and women are having, it can be passed on from their parents, and that might be the case. I don't really know. I think that Northern Ireland, in terms of, there's still a lot of issues in terms of the religious divide, and people being separated. I don't know what the answer is, but I've been involved in different things, a few different charities. I've actually made a documentary on it as well.
Documentary,
the
didn't
BBC,
you? 2023.
I've done that.
How did you find that?
It was good. Again, another cathartic thing, and I went and just spoke to a lot of young men and women about their issues and talked to them. Do you know what? I bumped into one of the guys that was speaking to, and it was one of the nicest things that's ever happened to me. And he says to me after the conversation and the chat with him, he literally changed his life around, and he's now counselling other kids and helping them, and that was amazing. I just spoke to him. Just as a normal person, and that was it. And maybe that was all it holds
value.
Massive
I've had that a few times in my life, where someone's reached out to me just by a conversation I've had with them, and you're like, he's like, Leon, you saved my life, and I'm like, it's so like, wow, like really
it's an amazing
yeah, because you don't realise it at the time. You're just talking because of experiences, or you just want to help someone. I think the best thing to do in life is to be able to do that, to be able to help someone.
Honestly and speak honestly and openly about your feelings does help others, and it obviously helps coming from you're in Belfast, you're a sort of key public figure. Did you ever have any thoughts of that during your career, where you're looking at Belfast in that sort of way, or was it as soon as you retired, you had a bit more time in your hands, you delved a little bit deeper and gone, hold on, the city I love, the city I'm from, the place I have had home for, and the support that they have given me throughout my career. Wow, I might have to give something back here.
I think there's a big part in that, and that's one of the reasons why. I mean, I was in terms of when I was in my pump, like I was probably one of the most well supported fighters in the UK and Ireland. That like, there was 5,000 people went to Vegas to watch me fight Santa Cruz, and I always feel like I need to give a bit back. I've always felt like that, and I feel like anybody who's in a position to do that, whether you're a sports star, or a musician, or a politician, even though they don't they see it differently. But whatever, if you're in a position of influence or power, whatever you want to call it, I think you should try to be nice and do a wee bit.
For your mental health, do you have days where you've struggled? But it doesn't sound like you've kind of had those particular days. It more sounds like that you've got to grips with coping with what to do.
That's what
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. I get what you're saying, and I think, I mean, I would never go as far. I was down at times throughout my career, and especially during the court process and retirement, and I suppose all that coming at the same time. I was very down. I would never say I was depressed, but there was definitely hard moments. But I had good people around me to help me out. I had good people to listen to and vent my anger. My wife in particular, my mum, my dad as well. My old amateur coach, Billy McKee, was another one that I could talk to openly. So I think that was important, just to have people around.
What would you say, Carl, to... We're quite blessed. We've got beautiful kids, wife and family and so forth. But some people don't have that. What would you say to someone that is sort of struggling through, those mental health issues, or a young fighter even that's coming through and has got the aspirations to do what you did? Like, what's the key?
Well, like you said, they may not have, a support network at home, but there's always so many people willing to help, and there's a lot of good people. Although it doesn't seem like it when you put the TV on and you listen to the news for half an hour, it doesn't seem like there's good people in the world. But there's so many good charitable people who want to help people, and literally it can be a simple phone call, bumping into a stranger in the street, having a conversation, whatever it may be. But I think genuinely kind of talking about your story, and we talked about that cathartic experience of just getting it all out, doing the book and speaking to the sports psychologist. That genuinely helped me. Genuinely.
Take us back to growing up. You grew up in Tigers Bay, very loyalist area.
Yeah.
What was that like? It was.
I felt like it was okay. It was just, you just get used to your surroundings, don't you? It was, now when I'm thinking back, like it was a bit like the Wild West. Like it was just, I lived on a street that was very close to the interface from the Republican housing estate. I mean, 50 yards from my front door, especially in the summer months over the kind of marching season, there would be horrible riots and, I mean, when I say rats, people shooting guns at each other and throwing petrol bombs and
it's not
cars
punch-ups in the street.
No, and people cars trying to drive into people and chaos. I mean, chaos.
You saw that, didn't you?
I saw it, but it was exciting when I was a kid. My mum and dad always tried to keep me away from it, but if I knew there was a rat going to start, I'm hiding somewhere, so I want to see this rat.
Were you a witness of a pipe bomb to a 16?
My brother saw it happen. It was horrible. I know the guy, Glenn Branagh, is his name, and I was good friends with his brother Sam, who was in the same class as me in school, and Glenn, caught up in one of these rats, being advised and by other people as well. He was a young guy, but imagine influenced by older people. Tried to throw a pipe bomb, and there was a short fuse on it, and it blew up kind of on the backswing behind his head and blew his head open, the back of his head. My brother saw it happening, and I remember walking down the street, and by the time I got there was a crowd of people around him, and I just seen his feet sticking out of this crowd. But he was dead at this stage.
How old were you at that time?
I was, I don't know, probably 15, something like that. Wow. My brother would have been maybe a bit younger, maybe 14. My brother would have been a year younger than me, and I remember looking at him. He was standing away from the crowd, but just like standing still, like white as a ghost. He just seen this happening, and he just like looking off in the distance. Like I just remember looking at him. Horrible. Yeah, it's just not nice.
Do you think that has had an effect, like you mentioned earlier, about the trauma, and had effect on people's, now that's settled down, but they've still got these scars?
I think so. I think there's probably issues still from that, and
Is your brother?
well, my brother he's a very different character to me, to be honest. So yeah, he doesn't really say much, and I imagine he does have a few issues. I'm sure he can be very angry at times and explode and go off the rails. He's a really good guy deep down, like very generous to a fault. But yeah, people seeing stuff like that can't be good for anybody.
For anybody, yeah, it can't be good. You went to HMP. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, McGabry. Yeah. It was a memorial in the gym.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was really good. Yes, I spoke to the prisoners. I was a wee bit nervous, to be honest, because you don't know what it's like. They may think you're an idiot or not really care about what you're going to say. But I think there was a fair bit of respect actually going into jail. The mural that was done, it was like, if you can imagine it wasn't just one mural. It was like a 5-a-side pitch, the 4 walls covered, and it was done by 2 prisoners. So clearly there's a lot of talent in there. I mean, it was amazing, like very, very good. I went in, there was guys making me amazing food, prisoners cooking me food, but it was very, very nice. Like, there's talented people in there, and I know there's bad guys in there as well, but there's good people in there who've made bad decisions as well, and that's, I kind of just spoke to them about that, and just saying, it's not the end of the road, you're in jail, there's other opportunities for you. And some of the craftsmanship, like they've got this program going on where they're building stuff, like woodwork, and building sheds and benches and different things, and they can sell it to the outside world. Some of the stuff that we're building was amazing. Like, these guys they're wasted in jail, and there's clearly an avenue for them and something to focus on once they get out. But then once they get out, it's about surrounding yourself with the right influences and the right people,
and giving the chance.
Yeah.
Carl, since retiring, you've moved into the media side of things. I think I see you doing the TNT head-to-head with Anthony Yard and Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I've done a few head-to-heads, yeah.
Yeah, I saw you doing it. How did that feel in the experience? Because I know you was like looking at your script and the notes and know what it's like sitting here.
I'm kind of half used to it now. They put me in this position to kind of try and front these head-to-heads, and it was very alien to me at the start, and I suppose it probably still is, but I feel like I've got a wee bit better. I still need to have plenty of notes written down and stuff, but I enjoy it, and at TNT I'm not just a pundit. They have me doing different things, and I'm just, life's good at the minute. I'm enjoying it.
Your daughter plays football.
Yeah.
And you're in charge of, or you help out.
Yeah.
Coaching the football team. How's that?
Well, it's good. I enjoy it, to be honest. I loved football.
Coaching,
yeah. Well, there's a coach, and I help the coach. Yeah. So I'm the assistant coach of an under girls under 15 football team. Brilliant. So,
Carl, you also have a new whiskey brand.
Yeah.
How'd you fall into that?
Well, that was a guy, a friend of mine called Paul Lothar, who kind of proposed the idea to me. I was actually in Dubai, so that was one of the things I was hoping maybe would work out. But when I was in Dubai at the end of my career, he came up with this idea, talking about starting a whiskey. I thought, why not? We reached out to a few different distilleries and stuff, and the whiskey was off the ground. So the whiskey's called Stablemate, and it's going really, really well. We've had a good couple of years. We were the first brand from the quickest brand from launch to being on the shelves of Tesco's. So inside about a couple of months, we're in Tesco's NI. It's going well. Our home market, we're doing quite well there. There's a few investors speaking to us at the minute, and I think this year and next year it'll be a lot more well known, and people will know the brand.
So let's get on to your fights. 31 times professionally, 11 years. Is there one stands out?
Well, there's a couple, and it's the first world title because it's the dream achieved.
Yeah.
That was it. I mean, all I wanted to do was I wanted to win a world title. So if I had won a world title against Kiko Martinez and get beaten my next fight, I feel like I could have lived with that. So that one with Kiko, and then moving up a division and beating Leo Santa Cruz to become a 2-weight world champion. I'm the only one from Northern Ireland ever to do that. And there's only me and Steve Collins and Katie Taylor on the island of Ireland that have ever done it. And there's only a few Brits that have done 3. Your Uncle Duke is one of them. So,
cheers.
There's not many. Like the 3, that's the holy grail. And I tried for it, but it just wasn't good enough.
I've got it in front of me here. I've made a big note in here. This Scott Quigg fight. That was an epic.
It was the build up and everything around it. There was a lot of hostilities, and me and the McGuigans didn't like Eddie Hearn and Joe Gallagher. It's different now. There's respect between me and Joe, and respect between me and Eddie as well. But in the heat of the moment, like there was hatred there. Like, didn't like these guys at all.
Really? Like, because elaborate on what
it was real. People think a lot
Sometimes
of
it's put up.
Pantomime and orchestrated and stuff.
But this was real.
It was real, and you got to remember, I was being fed information by the McGuigans, who also hated them, and I'm believing everything these guys are saying. But Eddie's a promoter and he's doing what he's doing. Quigg,
he's the best.
He is. He's an amazing promoter. Quigg, although I didn't like him, I have a great respect for him. Joe Gallagher, I have a great respect for. It's funny, the only ones that don't really respect now are the McGuigans. It's funny how things work out. But that was real. It was real at the time. So the fight didn't live up to the hype. It was a bit of a boring fight. Atmosphere was incredible, but really, amazing atmosphere. And at the time, people kind of forget about the fight, but it's like the Battle of Britain, kid from Northern Ireland, a Manc fighting in Manchester. It was very, very. The build-up was insane. We done a 3-city press tour and stuff. That doesn't normally happen.
When you say boring, is that just in terms of because you just boxed?
Yeah, it was easy.
You didn't want to get into a fight.
I didn't have to.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it was.
You just kind of boxed away.
If there's a boxing purist out there, they maybe found it interesting, but people want to see blood and guts, and I was winning rounds by doing very little. So a good bit of advice actually from Shane McGuigan, going back at about round 6, was just, you don't have to win the rounds by this much. If you're just winning the rounds by doing very little, then just conserve and just keep doing what you're doing, and that was it.
Then you went to, you fought in New York against Santa Cruz, and he was undefeated at the time.
Yeah.
Just talk to us about that fight, because that was the Battle of the Champions, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was. I was just moving up. It was my first fight at featherweight. Now normally what happens is you dip your toes in and you fight someone to see what you're like at a new division. But I got offered the chance to fight Leo Santa Cruz in New York, and I took it with both hands. I firmly believed I could win the fight, but no one else really did, apart from myself and my team, I suppose. There was 30 American journalists asked who was going to win the fight, and I think maybe 1 or 2 possibly picked me.
Because you moved up a weight.
I moved up, and he was a 3-weight world champion at the time. He went on to become a 4-weight world champion after that. But it was a big win again. He was in the top. I think Leo was probably number 7 pound for pound on the pound for pound list. So it was a big win. But I always believed I could do it.
In the celebration,
I went to a pub, Annie Moore's, the day after, and that was
there was a lot of island there.
Yeah, it was a lot, and at a few. I remember I'll not say how much, but I put some money behind the bar, right, and I expected to go a lot longer than it did, but some woman came up to me about 40 minutes after I'd put the money behind, saying we've run out of money, and I'm going, what? Are you joking? But people were taking the piss. They were having travels and flipping. There was guys from the street coming in and having a drink, so I had to fire a few more quid and made some rules. A mixer and a 1 spirit or a pint that we taking the piss. So it was good. Just went on the piss.
Carl, you recently got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Was that in Cardiff?
Yeah,
because that's where my dad got.
Yeah,
I didn't see you that night.
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you not attend?
I couldn't. I had. what did I have on? I had something on, and I was raging because I'd bought a table. I'd paid for a table for everyone to come.
No, I was gutted because I knew he was obviously coming, but it was my dad's birthday as well. He just turned 68, and then he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. For yourself, how did you feel?
It's amazing. It's just
into the Hall of Fame.
It's nice being recognised by your peers and people involved in the sport. Lovely. Such a shame I couldn't make it, but I've got the certificate and the plaque. They give me proudly displayed in the office and stuff, and I'm very, very proud.
That's fantastic.
2016, you become an MBE.
Yeah.
Another, I suppose, are their accolades when you finish? You can look, your kids can be, that's something for your family to be proud of.
Yeah.
Big, that is a big achievement.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud. And again, you touched on it earlier on. My wife is not from a unionist community, so I'm probably a bit more proud of it than she is. But that's just the politics and everything else in Northern Ireland. No, she was delighted that I won it as well, and that was a big day for me. I mean, I was very nervous that day, felt so out of place. You know what I mean? And
who gave you it? The Queen gave me mine.
Oh, you see, you got lucky. No, well, I done all right, Prince William. I got
I didn't get that far. I didn't get that far. So I saw Prison Doors.
There's still time yet. Leon. But no to remember about the photographs. He was on a step.
Yeah.
And he's obviously a giant anyway, and I'm not a giant, and they just look ridiculous when he's giving me it. Like he's giving it to a wee boy.
What's the future plans for Carl Frampton?
Well, I'm happy doing the stuff that I'm doing as a pundit. Hopefully, again, the stablemate whiskey takes off and keeps going the way it is over the next few years. But just to be happy. I mean, I don't need a lot in life. I just need to. I really enjoy bringing my little girl to football and just being at home and chilling out, a few holidays every now and again with Mrs. and kids. That's literally it. Yeah,
no, that's great. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening. Got so much respect for you as a fighter, and obviously meeting you, probably think this is probably the first time we've actually spoken, so even more respect, and I wish you nothing but love and the best for you and your family.
Thanks very much for coming on and keep spreading the word in Northern Ireland. Keep telling people to keep talking to each other, because that's what it's all about.
It's all about talking.
You seem to have been running around upsetting people, Spencer, you treacherous little hound.
Boom! Like that. That's where he was getting stuck.
Fury hits him on the ropes. 30 seconds to go.
Opinions are opinions. They're like backsides. Everybody's got one.
I stand by that. I still think it was a terrible decision.
Well, it takes two to tango.